Why do people suffer in marriage? If you truly understand the answer to this question, your entire life will change. Not just your relationships, not just the way you look for love, not just the way you choose a spouse. It will change how you see yourself, how you see divine wisdom, how you see your purpose. Your heartbreak will suddenly begin to make sense. Your past will no longer feel like a punishment. It will feel like a lesson. And your future will gain clarity. Listen to this message until the end, because the last point will shock you. And you will realize that what you have been doing wrong in your search for love has been destroying your peace from the very beginning. Before I continue, I ask one thing with sincerity. If this message reaches your heart comment, I love Allah. Let the world know that you value the love of the Creator before you value the love of a human being. Let the ones who see your comment have the courage to do the same. Maybe your comment becomes the reason someone finds their faith again. Maybe your words save a marriage. Maybe your love for Allah spreads in thousands of hearts. Do not underestimate your ability to inspire someone else. People suffer in marriage because they enter marriage for the wrong reasons. Some marry because they are afraid of loneliness. Others marry to escape their families. Some marry because their friends are getting married. Some marry because they feel pressure from society or culture. Some marry because they want attention or validation. Others marry because they simply want physical intimacy. When marriage begins on the foundation of fear or insecurity or pressure, its walls will collapse at the first test. A house built on weak soil cannot stand, no matter how beautiful the paint on the outside. You may host guests, you may decorate the rooms, you may post pictures that look perfect, but the moment the rain comes, the cracks appear. Rain is not the problem, the foundation is. Marriage is not an escape. Marriage is not a reward. Marriage is not a trophy. Marriage is not entertainment. Marriage is not a trend. Marriage is not a punishment for being single. Marriage is an amanah, a trust, a responsibility, a sacred commitment between two souls. When people enter it for the wrong purpose, their hearts suffer because the journey becomes heavier than they can carry. Imagine a person carrying a bag filled with rocks. Every step hurts, their shoulders ache, their breath shortens, they begin to resent the bag. But the real problem is not the bag. The real problem is what they put inside it. Many people blame marriage, but the pain is caused by their intentions. People suffer in marriage because they do not know themselves before they choose someone else. They do not heal from their traumas. They do not confront their insecurities. They do not learn patience. They do not learn discipline. They do not learn emotional maturity. They enter marriage expecting their spouse to fix their wounds. But a spouse is not a doctor for your heart. A spouse can support healing, but cannot complete it. You cannot expect someone to love you properly when you have never learned to respect yourself. A soul that does not understand its worth will cling to anything that offers temporary affection, and temporary affection will eventually hurt you. Many marriages fail because people love the idea of marriage more than the reality of marriage. They imagine a palace. They expect romance every day. They imagine their spouse always smiling, always gentle, always excited, always soft. They do not imagine sacrifice. They do not imagine difficult weeks. They do not imagine sleepless nights with crying children. They do not imagine disagreements. They do not imagine financial pressure. They do not imagine illness. They do not imagine aging. And when reality comes, they feel shock. they panic. They think their spouse has changed. No, reality has arrived. Your heart was not prepared. The worldly definition of love has poisoned the hearts of millions. You are taught that love must always feel good, always feel exciting, always feel intense, always feel like the beginning. But in truth, love is not a constant emotional high. Love is discipline, love is patience, love is duty, love is compromise, love is forgiveness, love is effort, love is waking up when you are tired and still caring. Love is arguing with respect. Love is apologizing when you were wrong, even if you do not feel like it. Love is putting your ego in chains for the sake of the person you promised to protect. True love is not loud. It is consistent. People suffer in marriage because they choose someone who makes them feel good instead of someone who makes them better. The person who makes your heart beat faster is not always the person who will help your soul grow. The charming liar is louder than the quiet believer. The playful flirt is louder than the humble worshipper. The one who entertains your desires is louder than the one who reminds you of prayer. We live in a world where temptation speaks louder than truth, and many hearts fall for noise instead of falling for sincerity. Marriage becomes painful when you marry someone who loves the world more than they love Allah. Because a person whose heart revolves around worldly desires will betray you the moment those desires change. People who do not fear Allah do not fear hurting you. People who do not value accountability will never understand loyalty. When they are angry, they will insult you. When they are bored, they will ignore you. When someone more attractive appears, they will entertain it. When responsibilities become heavy, they will run away. Their love is temporary because it is not rooted in the eternal. The believer is different. The heart that knows the Almighty Creator does not collapse when the storms arrive. They know that every difficulty has wisdom. They know that patience is rewarded. They know that forgiveness heals. They know that marriage is a test. They do not always get it right. They may shout, they may feel frustrated, they may cry, but they return to humility. They apologize. They remember prayer. They control their anger. They do not destroy their spouse because they know their Lord is watching. They do not violate trust because they know betrayal is punished. They do not abandon responsibilities because they know every soul will be questioned. People suffer in marriage because they enter it with selfish expectations instead of responsibilities. They want to be served, they want to be admired, they want to be validated. They want someone to make them happy. They want someone to always agree with them. They want someone to fix their emotional wounds. Marriage becomes a battlefield because two selfish hearts compete to take instead of two humble hearts race to give. Real love is two people serving one another. A husband who serves his wife with kindness, a wife who serves her husband with respect, both united under the fear of Allah. When both serve each other, neither becomes a slave. Both become honored. People suffer because they ignore red flags before the marriage. They see arrogance and say, he will change. They see disrespect and say, she will be different when we are married. They see neglect and say, he will become more caring after the wedding. They see lack of prayer and say, she will become religious later. They see anger issues and say, he will improve with time. They see dishonesty and say, everyone lies sometimes. They ignore every sign that Allah places in front of them. And when the pain arrives, they ask, why me? But the truth is, they saw the storm. They walked into it willingly. They prepared no shelter. They expected sunshine in a hurricane. People suffer in marriage because they treat their spouse like a competitor instead of a partner. They scoreboard every argument. They weaponize every mistake. They track every flaw. They use pain as ammunition. A marriage like this becomes a battlefield. Every conversation becomes a war. Every disagreement becomes a threat. This behavior destroys love, because love cannot survive in a home where both hearts are constantly trying to win. Marriage is about winning together against hardship, not winning against each other. People suffer in marriage because they compare their relationship to others. They look at couples smiling online. They see vacations, they see parties, they see edited photos, they see highlight reels. They do not see the tears. They do not see the nights of panic. They do not see the illnesses. They do not see the fights behind closed doors. They do not see emotional exhaustion. They do not see the healing. They only see perfection and ask, why is my life not like that? Comparison is poison. It blinds you from the blessings in your own home and magnifies imaginary blessings in others. Another reason people suffer is because they allow outsiders to invade their marriage. Friends, extended family, co-workers, emotionally dangerous online connections. They share intimate details with people who do not respect them. They discuss private matters with people who have no wisdom. They allow strangers into conversations meant only for two people. Marriage collapses when the world becomes the third partner. Every soul who gives advice will shape your heart. And some hearts are toxic. If you feed poison to your marriage, do not be surprised when it dies. Some people suffer because they married someone who treats them like an object instead of a soul. These people see their spouse as a source of comfort, not as a companion in faith. They demand, they consume, they expect, they command. They do not listen. They do not appreciate. They do not reflect. Their spouse becomes a tool, not a partner. The soul suffocates, it begins to die. Marriage becomes a prison. People also suffer because they forget the basic etiquette of kindness. They speak harshly. They criticize constantly. They never compliment. They never acknowledge effort. They assume loyalty without maintaining it. They treat their spouse better in front of strangers and worse behind closed doors. They cannot imagine that words can wound deeper than knives. They cannot imagine that silence can hurt more than insult. The heart is fragile. There are homes where people cry every night, not because they are physically abused, but because they are emotionally starved. And then there are those who suffer because they married someone who was never ready for marriage. One person is ready to build a life. The other is still chasing fantasies. One person understands responsibility. The other wants freedom without duty. One person is prepared to sacrifice. The other wants to be worshipped. Marriage with someone emotionally immature is like walking with a child in an adult suit. They will break everything they touch and blame you for the damage. The last reason will shock you. People suffer in marriage because Allah is absent from their union. When prayer disappears, mercy disappears. When humility disappears, compassion disappears. When gratitude disappears, patience disappears. When accountability disappears, respect disappears. When faith disappears, love becomes temporary. Without faith, marriage turns into a contract of convenience instead of a covenant of souls. Two hearts walking without divine direction will eventually walk in opposite directions. If this message reach your soul, comment, I love Allah. Share your situation. Tell others how you healed, how you survived, or what you are going through. Your experience might become the guidance for someone who is suffering silently. And let this be a reminder, you are not alone. Every heart has a story. Every soul has been wounded. Some wounds are loud, some are silent, but every wound can be healed when you return to the Lord of mercy. Your marriage can change, your life can change, your future can change, only if you rebuild the foundation with Allah at the center.